And live.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. We're back. It is 3:30 California Pacific Time. I'm Jill Zandy. I'm the Executive Director of MATE Inspiration for Innovation, and I'm the MATE ROV Competition Coordinator, and I'm here with Matt Gardner.
Hi, everyone.
Matt is the Competition Technical Manager, and behind the camera is Dylan Simpson.
Hey guys.
Another CMATE student. If you were with us earlier, we had the Scout class prop demonstration and Q&A. Now this is the Navigator class prop demonstration and Q&A. So we're gonna do what we did last time. Matt is gonna take you through the competition props, which he designed and built. He'll give you tidbits on the mission, go through the tasks so you can see how they all work, giving lots of tidbits, lots of hints. And the most exciting part about this is that you can ask your questions and get them answered directly from Matt live. Just type them in. I'll be monitoring the questions and I'll interrupt Matt and ask him as we go along. So a couple of things. As a reminder, subscribe. You should see it at the bottom of your screen. You can subscribe and then you'll get notices when we go live and you won't miss a single Facebook Live from the MATE ROV competition. The other thing is this video is going to live on our MATE competition Facebook page, and it's also going to be recorded and put on our YouTube channel and our Vimeo channels. So if you missed it, you have to miss part of it, you want to go back because you want to re-listen to something that you think is really important you missed the first time, you will be able to do that. So you'll be able to access that. So I think that is all that I have to say, and I'll turn it over to Matt. Here we go with Navigator props.
Excellent. So hi again, everyone. We're going to go through, now when I go through these props, the missions, I'm going to go through them in order, but I'm going to talk a little bit about order, especially at the end, because just because I'm going through an order, you don't actually have to do these in order. You can start with what you want, and I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end. So let's get started. Task 1, ensuring public safety, dam inspection and repair. And the first part, well, this has a couple parts. There's inspecting the foundation of the dam, repairing the damaged trash rack, and inserting grout into the voids. And you can start with whichever of these three you want. So we're going to start with inspecting the foundation of the dam. So for Navigator, here's the foundation of the dam, the PVC framework, and there are these 4 tubes. So 2 openings on this side, 2 openings on this side. And what you're going to do with your ROV and your camera is you're going to look down each of these tubes and you're going to look for that brown foam sheeting, which indicates that there is a muddy flow. So Dylan, I'm going to have you come on over and we're going to start. Let's start with the top left one and let me see what you can see through your camera. Not much, we may need some light. So we're not going to be able to see much today, but as you look down here, I'll tell you, with some light in here, you'll be able to see that this one has some brown water flow. So you're going to look into each one of these with your camera. And again, just found out you may want to have a light or something that can shine down there, but you're going to look for that brown muddy flow. And then you're going to tell the judge that, you know, this one, the top left had muddy flow. The top right did not. The bottom right did, and the bottom left didn't. So you're going to identify for the judge which of these has the muddy water flow. Okay? So the next part is repairing the damaged trash rack. And this one somewhat has to be done in order logically. So here is the trash rack, how it's set up. You've just got a framework and a little cradle. And the damaged trash rack, it has a middle section missing, is going to be sitting in the cradle here. And what you have to do is you have to come down, take this one, back up to the surface, and then on the surface side of the pool, I will say today, this table kind of represents the surface side of the pool, although this table over here, we have some of it too, just because we're going to move around. But you will have a new trash rack screen on the surface side of the pool, which you have to take down, put in this cradle. So how it works is you have to have the bottom part of the cradle. The nice thing is, it fits over there, so, and it needs to be leaning up. This part needs to be leaning up against here. And you'll get points once the ROV is no longer touching it. So if your ROV is still kind of holding it here, you won't get points. But once it's released from your ROV, leaning up against here in the cradle, you'll get points. Now I want to take a step back just in case. Go over another thing. let's say the damaged trash rack is in here. Now, if you want, you could bring this down from the surface. Let's say you have 2 manipulators. Pick this one up, put this one in, set it, and bring this one back up. So essentially you can do it in pretty much any order, but of course, you know, if the damaged one is in there, it's got to come out before you get that new one in there, because they both won't fit in there, and that would be logical. Okay? So that is replacing the damaged trash rack screen. See if I did anything else on that. Okay, so the last part of this mission is putting, I'm going to just move this a little bit, so down room, is filling the voids with grout. So here are the voids. There's this black 4 block squares here in a grid. And up on the surface, you're going to have 10 T's that are painted black. And what you need to do is you need to get one of these T's in each of those squares. So how you carry them down is up to you. They don't have any ropes or any other attachment points, but you do have extra. So if you're going down and you drop one, you have a couple more to go. If you drop 2, you've got more. If you drop 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10, well, then you're going to have to go down and get them off the bottom. But you have these, and the goal is to have one in each square. So that will get you 5 points. That will get you 5 more points. That will get you 5 more points. And that will get you 5 more points. Okay? So again, what you're going to have to show the judge to get your points is one black T in each square. And if you happen to get 2 in one square, well, that's great, but this one doesn't have one. So this would only count as 1 in, 1 in, 1 in, nothing in. So you need 1 in each square. Okay? So that's it for task 1, dam inspection and repair. And again, as Jill said, if you have any questions, write them in. Okay, so we're going to move on to task 2, maintaining healthy waterways. And this is another one where you can pretty much do in any order. Although again, sometimes logically you have to take something out before you can put something in. For instance, before you can do the pH and phosphate test, you got to get the sample back up from the bottom. So we're actually going to skip down a little bit to the data sheet. So on your table when you get there, or it might be in your folder if you're regional users folders, you're going to have a Maintaining Healthy Waterways Navigator data sheet. And this has a bunch of information on it. So you will start, you will probably have a company number and a company name. So I'm going to say I'm company number 3. My company's name is Matt's Team. The date is, I already forgot the date. You told me earlier.
15th.
15th. And the time is 3:38. Now you don't have to get your time exact, just somewhere around the time you're doing it. And again, and here's a hint, is as I go through and do these missions, you don't have to wait to the end to fill this out. So what we're going to do is, as I go through and demonstrate the missions, we're going to fill out the data. So the first part is getting a temperature reading. And you're going to get a temperature reading somewhere around the water sample. Now this year, we've tasked you with building your own temperature sensor. So it's really on you to build this, bring your own. MAID is not providing it for you. Now, if you're like, oh my gosh, I have no idea how to even do this, I will tell you there are a couple hints in the manual. So if you read your manual carefully, it'll say, hey, if you want some hints, go to this section. And if you click on there, we actually have some ways to build a temperature sensor to help you out. So I have a temperature sensor over here.
Matt,
yes.
Can I interrupt? Because we've got two questions came in about the previous task.
Yes.
So, are the T's, if they're dropped outside, are they considered debris and would you be penalized?
No, so that's a good question. This is a mate prop, something we've given you, so it's not debris. So if you drop a bunch outside, that's okay. They can stay on the bottom. They are not debris. You will not be penalized for that. Great question. Next question.
Yeah, good question. No, that was it. They were both,
both
that question.
Okay, excellent. So where were we? Temperature sensor. So here is a temperature sensor I have built up. You may not have something a little different, but this one, turn it on, and I will go over, we had a question on our earlier scout one, and you're going to want, the end of this is actually the temperature probe, you're going to want it somewhere in the vicinity of the water sample. We don't have an actual distance. It's not like, oh, you have to be within half a meter or 10 centimeters. But when you're down near your water sample, you are going to have to show the judge a reading such as 19.5. So that's what it is here. And again, you know, it's a great hint when you get this data, don't wait to write it down. Let's write it down now. So our water temperature is 19.5. And of course, being scientists, we always want to report stuff in Celsius. We're not going to use Fahrenheit.
Yeah, units are important, right?
Yeah, units are important. So yeah, definitely put down your units. Now the question we had earlier is, does your temperature sensor have to be powered off the main supply? And the answer is no. So this one, let me get this opened up. This one actually uses a little 9-volt battery. So you know, a little 9-volt, a couple AAAs, AA's, you can use something like that to power your temperature sensor if needed. Okay, just wanted to go ahead. Okay, so that's the temperature sensor. Let me clean up behind myself and put this away, just so we're not tripping over it. Okay, and the next part is retrieving the water sample. So the water sample is this. It's 2 end caps and some pipe, and it's got a rope attached to it, and there's a little bit of float on here, and that just holds the rope up, so it's easier to grab. So this will kind of be floating like that. And your job is to get this. Now, you don't have to use the rope if you want to pick it up somewhere else, and bring it back to the surface side of the pool. And for now, we're going to use this as the surface side of the pool. And you'll get points when you bring it back. And then you get to open up. Now, it's really easy to open up. These aren't pushed on real hard. And inside, we have 2 test tubes, one of which is labeled pH, and one of which is labeled phosphate. And you're going to take these, and you are going to do a pH test and a phosphate test. So we're going to start with the pH test. So we have our little pH strips here. Now, you may pull off one of your own, or you may have some already cut for you. So here's one that's already cut, about 1.5 inches. You're just going to open this test tube. Now, do be careful. If you open this up and it spills everywhere, you kind of out of luck. You get one sample here. So just be careful, and then, this is really easy. Just dip the strip in the liquid, take it out, and then this kit has our scale right there. So we're going to look at this. It tends to be orange, so going down here, we're just going to match this up. So as I look at this, I'm looking at maybe that's a 4, maybe it's a 3. I think it matches up with 3 a little bit better than 4. Honestly, it's probably between 3 and 4 somewhere. But all you have to be is within one range. So I'm going to call this a 3. And as long as it's the pH, known pH is 2, 3, or 4, you'll get points. And it looks, I would say it looks a little more 3 than 4 as you look here. So again, you report to the judge. You say, hey, station judge, we think our pH is 3. And they will give you points. And again, we're going to write it down on our data sheet for later. So pH is 3. Okay. Then we're going to do a phosphate test. And so with this kit, how this works, and there are instructions. If you look in the build instructions and the photos there, we have this laid out how you do it. So what you do is, in this kit, there are these strips. You take off the cap, and again, be careful not to spill that sample. And if you look at this strip, you have the one big strip here and 2 small ones here. What you do is you bend them so the strips are on the inside, like this, and you bend it between the big and the small ones. You put that in the cap, put the cap back on, and then 1, you're going to do this 5 times. So 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay? And actually, if you look, you can already tell it's turning a little blue. But you don't want to look at it sideways. What you want to do is then you take the cap off, and you look down the tube and you compare it to here. So Dylan, let's see if we can look straight down that tube. And as I'm looking at this, It's definitely not that one. My guess is, oh my gosh, it's in the thousands. So my guess is it's in the 1,000, maybe the 2,500 range here. So let me give it one more look. I'm going to say, yeah, it looks pretty dark here. So I'm going to say it's in the 2,500 parts per billion. And of course, the judge is going to look and go, yep, that's what it is. So again, tell the judge what you think it is. The judge will confirm. And then write it down. So we're going to go 2,500, and that's parts per billion. That's what the ppb stands for. Okay?
Hey, Matt, can
yes.
we go back to task 1?
Yes.
We have a question. Can you carry all of the PVCTs down into the water at the same time?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And
great
in general, yes, you can carry as much as your ROV can carry, you can carry. So let's say you have 3, 4, 5,
The Matt
6,
ROV.
7, 8. Of course, getting the number 10 on is going to be tough. So yeah, if you have a manipulator that can carry down 10, you can. There you go. That'd be good right there. So yeah, great question. And just in general, you know, for all these tasks, if you can carry down or up multiple things at once, you can do that. Okay? Any other questions, or are we?
Oh, yes, there's a question about, is the video going to be saved on the Facebook page? Yes.
Yes, it is.
It will
Yep.
live on our Facebook page, absolutely.
Okay, so we've done phosphate. Let me get caught up on my notes so I remember where we are. Okay, the next thing is determining habitat diversity, lifting a rock from the bottom, and you're going to look at the benthic species underneath. So here's our rock, our actual rock. It's PVC framework with some corrugated plastic down there. And what you're going to have to do is, it has this nice handle, you're just going to have to lift this up, and it needs to be up off the bottom, under control of the ROV. But once you get your points, you can set it anywhere. It doesn't have to come back surface. If it does come back to the surface, that's okay, but you're just going to set it down. And so underneath on the bottom, we have our benthic species. So you're going to set your ROV camera here and look at these benthic species and then count which ones are. Now, so Dylan and I don't have to bend over too much. I'm going to move it up here. Now, of course, this is going to be on the bottom. You're not actually going to bring this back to the surface. But just for ease, we're going to bring it up here. And then you are going to use your Navigator Benthic Species Handbook. And if you're looking for a copy of this, we just recently, in the last couple days, posted this to the competition website. So if you go on the MATE website, look under Scoring Navigator. This is now posted. You can download and look at it yourself. So what this has is this has 12 species, 12 potential species. We've got a picture, the species letter, and then a name. And so you can see there's 12. So we're just going to go through, and this is again a hint. This is where it's good to use this form, and just as we go through, we're going to look. So we're going to look at species A, Cariformes, and that's what we're looking for. So I don't see any of those, so 0 of those. For this one, next one, yeah, I do see one of those right there. So it looks like there's only one, so we're going to write 1. None of those. For this one, yeah, that's that one right there, so I only see 1 of those. Okay, now we're going on to page 2. Eugenia, oh yeah, there's lots of those on here. I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's 5 of those. This one, oh yep, see some of those. 1, 2 of those. None of those, none of those. Going to the back page. None of those, nothing green. Oh, yep, I see, yep, there's 2 of these, so let me get a bunch of zeros in there. Tube effects, we have, as I said, 2. And then Unicolas, we have 1 of those. And now here's another hint, just in case, just to verify that I have the right number, because, you know, if you miss one, I'm going to count up. And I counted 1, 2, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I counted 12 species here, and I'm just going to give a quick count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that's just a way for me to double check that, hey, yes, I have Every species, all 12 species on here are now recorded here.
And I heard you say that this time.
Yep.
Hey, I have another question for you. Can I ask you?
Yes.
Well,
so I can
actually,
do
it's
some more.
from Danny. Are we to purchase specific brands for the tests, or is it just that we are trying to get a reading? Will there be a specific pH for phosphate reading? I think the test is what he's asking.
Right.
about.
So,
What test?
if we have these kits that you can use to practice with, but your regional is providing these kits. If you want to get these kits to practice with, you can. One thing I would recommend, and this is just in general for all tasks, is contact your regional manager or coordinator, but before you do that, check your regional website in the news and events tab, because your regional coordinator may have posted a regional information document with all this on it. And it may say, hey, we're not using this test, we're using a different pH test, and they will provide you with that pH test. But as I said, your regional coordinator at the competition is providing you with these. If you want to buy some to practice, you can do that. If maybe your classroom, your science teacher has some of these, you could use those. It's not real hard, to do. So just if you want to get some practice, you can do that. I think that answered the question.
Yeah,
If not,
I think
answer it.
that was good. And then just Alex is going back to the scout class and asked if we could, you need to bring the benthic species to the surface side of the pool.
So for scout,
We don't have a
yes.
camera.
For scout, since you probably don't have a camera, you're bringing that back up to the surface side of the pool. You actually get points for that, so you have to bring it back up, and then you can look at it. For navigator, you're not bringing it back up. It's going to be on the bottom, and it'll be down there. I just brought it up so I don't have to bend over so much, and we're not killing our backs leaning down. Okay, any other questions, or are we good?
No, that was good.
Okay.
Thank you.
So again, your judge is going to check your data. And then, of course, we did it as we went through, but you're going to fill out this data sheet, and then the judge is going to check to make sure everything's done. Now, all of this has to be filled out during the mission time. So once mission time's up, you are done. You can't go, once your time's up, you can't go, oh, we had, this, and this. This has to be done, turned in during mission time.
Yeah, not during the
debrief
or breakdown time.
Breakdown time. It has to be done during your mission run. But again, if you're filling it out as you do it, then it's done. Okay, so the next thing is transporting and releasing trout fry. So on the surface side of the pool, you're going to have two of these nice little fish models. And if you look in either the manual or the instructions, there are links to where you get these. And this is a fishing lure. Now, just so you know, when it comes to the fishing lure, there's a big treble hook here and a big hook here. You want to cut those off. And do be careful when you're cutting them off. Wear safety gloves if needed, because we don't want hooks in the pool, of course. But anyway, you are going to carry these down. Now, for navigator, you need something to carry these in. It can't be in a manipulator. We're pretending these are real fish. If you had a real baby trout in between a gripper, that would probably kill or damage the fish. So you are going to have a container to carry these down somehow. And then your goal is to drop them in this green square. So you want them both in there. Now, if you happen to drop these on the way, so if you're going down and this one escapes and falls to the bottom, you can't go pick it up. These are live fish, so once they're out of your container, they're going to swim off. And if that happens, you're not going to get points. But your goal is to get both of these down into the green square. So again, if you accidentally drop one there, it's gone. You can't go pick it up and put it back in there. Okay? So the next part is restoring reef habitat, removing degraded tires. So there are going to be two of these pool rings down on the bottom. And these actually, when they're in water, there's some foam inside here, so they should be sitting like this. And there's going to be two of them. You're just going to pick them up and bring those back to the surface. So you can do one at a time. You can do both at once. You can do this while you're bringing up other things. But once you get both of these up to the surface side of the pool, you will get your points. Okay? And the next thing is you are bringing down these reef fish balls and putting them in the orange square. So there's going to be 2 of these on the surface. I like to put a little elbow in here. It's a 1/2 inch elbow. That just helps to stabilize it so it doesn't roll quite as much, especially on the bottom of the pool. But you're going to carry these down and put them in the orange square. Now these, if you happen to drop one, you can pick it up and move it back in here. Okay? It's only the trout, live animals. If you let it go, it's going to swim away. So there you get your points. Both of them are in there.
All right, questions, Matthew?
Okay, excellent.
Okay, are points still given if we manage to keep 1 fish only?
So yeah, I believe, I'll have to double check, but I believe it's 5 points per fish, 10 points total. So if you get 1 fish in there, you get 5 points, you just don't get your other 5 points. And it's the same for the reef balls.
Awesome, and another one, can we use a basket with a rope?
Yes, you can. If you want to have a collection basket with a rope, you can have something like that. And you know, it allows you to concentrate everything in one thing to bring up and down. Another thing I'll mention is if you want, when you're at the surface side of the pool, let's say your ROV says, you know what, I want to pick these up from the bottom and transport them out instead of carrying them down from the surface and bringing them out. You can drop things right off the edge. So you could drop these here and here and then go get them from the bottom of the pool and move them out. What you can't do is toss these out in the pool hoping that it'll land in that orange square or near that orange square. If you're going to drop something, it has to go right down at the edge of the pool. Although the exception to that is trout fry. The trout fry, baby trout fry, you have to carry down with your vehicle. Because if you drop them here, they're free to swim away.
Hey, we have lots more questions.
Okay, good.
Awesome. Okay, so can a team member pull the basket to the surface, or does the ROV have to bring them up?
That's a good question, and that's one we'll have to think about.
We're going to think about that.
Yeah, we'll let you know.
Challenging
and
question.
I will post it to the FAQ board, because that is something I was thinking about, and sometimes we've allowed teams to pull up the basket by hand, sometimes we haven't.
Think it through. You're challenging us. Okay, another one. Can the basket that carried the fish be left in the water?
No, so the basket or whatever container you have to carry the fish, that's something you are building. So that would be debris if it was left in the water.
Got another one. That dropping rule, is it okay for the PVC pipes in task 1?
Yeah, so if you wanted to drop this and what else? Yeah, so this would be the only thing. Yeah, if you wanted to drop this new one down to the bottom and pick it up, that's fine. Now do note that my guess, if you drop this to the bottom, it's going to sit like that, and that might be really hard to pick up. But that's on you. If you want to drop it down, you can do that. Okay,
yeah, we might want to warn our divers that things might be coming down.
Well, that's one of the things. Drop it aside the pool. You're not, again, you can't throw anything out and hope it lands in the proper square.
No, that's it for so far, but you know what, I did want to reiterate what Matt said about finding specific information for your regional on your webpage. If you go there and you don't see it, you should ask your regional coordinator when that's going to be posted, because that's really important information for all teams, and so they should have that up there within the next month or so. There you go. Permission to bug them.
Okay, so I believe that's it for task 2. Let me just double check if there's anything. Yep. Okay, so now we're going to move on to task 3, preserving history. And like last year, we're going to have you do some math, because I love math. You know, some nice applied math. You know, if you ask, hey, when am I ever going to use math? This is the time. So for this task, you have to do some math before you lift the cannon up to the surface. But here's a hint. You don't have to do that first. So you can have someone doing some math, although this one has to be done in the middle, kind of, and I'll explain that, while your ROV is doing something else, okay? So, task 2 kind of has 2 sections. There's the measuring the cannon and lifting the cannon to the surface, and there is the cannon shells, identifying which cannon shells, well, which are metal cannon shells and which are non-metal debris. You can do either of those in any order, okay? So let's start with recovering the cannon. The first thing you're going to have to do is measure the length, the outer diameter, and the bore measurement. So here is a cannon, and however you want to measure length is up to you, but you can't guess. You need to, I know in past teams have estimated lengths from something set down there. If you're going to do that, let your judge know. But I'm going to do it simply. I'm going to carry down this ruler, and I'm going to measure this cannon. So the first thing I'm going to do is length. So I'm going to go, let's see, 45 to there. And we'll go to there. So this cannon, 45 plus 12 is 57 centimeters long. So I'm going to note 57 centimeters. And then we also want to know the outer radius, which would be this edge. Of course, you're not going to be able to pick it up and move it around. So I'm going to bring my ruler over here. And the outer diameter is, well, that's exactly 7 centimeters. Okay, so I'm just going to write these down so I don't forget. So we've got 57 centimeters long, 7 centimeters was the diameter, and then we also need what we call the bore diameter, which is the hole in the middle where the cannonball would come out if you're on a cannon. And so again, I'm going to measure that, and this is looking to be 4.9 centimeters. Okay, so you are going to measure these, and again, however you measure it, estimation.
Yep. And that's a question. There was a question that, is the ruler carried around by the ROV?
You could, yeah, so you could have this in a gripper, or maybe just mounted on the front of your RV, however you want to do it. You don't have to use a ruler, you can do other methods, but again, you can't guess. And I will say you can't get really close and try and read what it says on there and estimate from that. Because, a smart regional coordinator may sand that off, file that off, cover it up somehow.
That's what Matt's planning to do for Monterey, right, Matt? Hey,
I've got some ways to trick you a little bit.
We have another question, which I know you will get to eventually, but I'll ask it now. Can you work on the tasks simultaneously?
Yeah, so
strategy.
So yeah, you can work on the tasks simultaneously. So for instance, well, since we've done task 1 and 2, you could, carry this back up while you're carrying these back up. So yeah, it really doesn't matter. This year, there's really not much that has to be done in order, other than some logical things. Like I said, you have to, before you can measure these, you have to get the water sample back up since it's on the bottom. But while someone is doing these tests, your ROV pilot can be down doing whatever tasks they want.
That was a great question.
Yep, okay. Okay, so where were we? We've measured the cannon, and again, you are going to tell the judge, hey, what did we get? The cannon was 57 centimeters long, the outer diameter was 7 centimeters, the bore diameter was 4.9 centimeters, and if you are within the range, the judge will tell you, it's like, hey, you got it right. Now, once you've measured all 3 of those, you are going to be able to turn over, or the judge will give you, the cannon dimensions. And what you're going to use these for is to actually determine the volume of the cannon. Now, we don't want you to use the actual dimensions you measured, because when I was testing this, I noticed that, if you were even a millimeter or 2 off, the volume of the cannon could change pretty drastically. So what we're going to do is, once you've made these measurements, you are going to get some other measurements for the cannon, and you're going to use these to determine the volume of the cannon. So you can use a calculator, you can do the math by hand, this is where you're doing math, or you can have a computer program. So let me fire up my laptop, because I did, if it'll fire up. Okay, so I have this in Excel, and I'm not going to give you this program. You're going to have to figure this out yourself. But I have it, so all I have to do is enter the dimensions. So for length, we got 187 centimeters. For the outer diameter, we had 28 centimeters. And then for the bore diameter, we had 16 centimeters. And what that does is that gives me, outputs a final overall volume, which is 77,547.008 cubic centimeters. Okay? Now, a couple hints about this. You can set this up, and to determine the volume of the cannon, you're going to have to use pi. Pi, the number pi is involved in this. And what I found is that you need to use a couple significant digits. That's how many digits are behind the decimal point. So I actually did some experimentation. So as I said, for this one, we got 77,547. If you use, for pi, if you use 3.14, I got 77,507. So you're about 40 off, and you need to be within 50. So that's pretty close there. But if instead you use 3.14159, I got, what did I get? 77,547.07. So that's actually about 0.06 away. So if you use those 5 significant digits, you're going to be much closer. So think about that. How many significant digits you want to use, unless you can also use, you may be able to program the whole value of pi in there. So just think about that, okay? Hopefully that wasn't too confusing.
No question though.
Yes.
And I know the answer, but I'm going to ask you so you can tell the audience. Can teams have a TV monitor for cameras and a laptop poolside for the calculating, like you have done?
Yes. So okay. I'm going to have to double check, but I believe Navigator's limited to one video screen, but you can have a laptop that's not doing video, that's for other things like calculations. So yes, you could do this where we have our video screen, which is a phone. Well, you don't want that in a pool, and a laptop. So yes, you can have a laptop on the side.
Yeah.
Stuff set up. Okay, any other questions?
Nope, just apple or cherry pie, Matt.
Oh, apple. Although I like cherry too.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, no, that's fine. Okay, so once you've done those calculations, the next step is to bring that cannon up. Now let's say you can't get the measurements or you don't want to do the calculations for some reason. You don't have to, but once you start bringing that cannon up, you can't do any measurements or any calculations anymore. So you can skip those calculations, skip the length measurements, but once you attach a lift bag and start bringing that cannon up, you're done doing measurements and calculations. Okay, so you are going to have to attach a lift bag. So this has a U-bolt. That's a nice attachment point, although you could try to attach something else to it, and a pump. Now, for certain regionals, and this is again where you want to read your regional information document, is for certain regionals, you are going to provide these on your own. So you are going to build your own lift bag, you are going to bring your own pump, and do all this on your own. Some regionals may provide these for you, and some regionals may say, hey, you can build your own, or we have some here. So read your regional information document and determine if you need to create your own. So here's one I've created. And so this is just a lift bag. It's an ABS tube with an end cap on it. And just so you know, this ABS pipe actually floats. So this will hold up. So once you go in the water, you would hook it like this, and it would stay up there. It's not going to lift the cannon because you might not be able to see it, but this cannon has a 2-pound weight in it. You're going to hook this up, and once this is on there, you are then going to have a pump, either the one you bring or one that's provided for you. And see if I can do this with just two hands. So once this gets underneath there, like this, let's say you do this, and then you start pumping, pushing air down in there, and when you get enough air in here, this is going to come up to the surface. Okay? And a question we had in Scout, if your ROV comes up with this, that's fine. Okay, so the minute this breaks the surface with the cannon attached, you get points for attaching a lift bag and bringing it up to the surface. Okay, and if your ROV comes up with it, that's great. If your ROV is still there on the bottom, that's okay too. Now, once this is up on the surface, you have to get it back to the side of the pool, and this is something your ROV has to push. So you cannot pull on a cord to bring it back, a rope cord, whatever, to bring it back. Your ROV has to push this back to the side of the pool, and once it's there, bring it up, slide it on the surface side of the pool, and you'll get points for returning it. Okay?
Excellent. Hey, we have a question about back to the laptops and monitors. Can a laptop only be used for viewing and controlling everything via Ethernet connection?
You mean, can you use a laptop as your control system? Yeah, I think that's what they mean. Yeah,
I think so too.
Yeah, if you can
and
use
for
that.
your video screen, right there.
Yeah, so it could be your one video screen as well for Navigator. Ranger gets a few more, I believe. And I'll have to double check on that rule, but I think we've limited Navigator to one screen. Okay. Okay, so you get points for that. We're turning the cannon to the side of the pool. And again, it's got to be your ROV. You can't pull on a rope or line to bring that cannon back. Okay, the last part is you're going to have these 4 objects down on the bottom. So essentially, it's a brick to weigh it down. You have some PVC, and then there's either a PVC or metal pipe in the middle. And this is covered by black electrical tape. So you're not going to be able to visually tell, is that metal or is that plastic in here? So you're going to have to build yourself a sensor to determine, hey, is this metal or is this plastic? And how you do that is up to you, okay? So I don't have a sensor right here, so I'm going to use something really basic. I don't recommend doing this. I'm going to listen to see what it sounds like. So again, this is not the best bet. Nope, that's not metal. Yep, that one's metal. Nope, not metal. That one's definitely metal. So however you do it, this is not the way to do it, but you're going to determine which of these is metal and which of these is non-metal, and then you're going to mark them. So if it's metal, you're going to mark it with a red T, and so you're going to have some markers on the surface. So you're going to have 4 reds and 4 blacks. Well, that's probably more than you'll need. And they're going to have a rope through them. And they're going to have a little bit of flotation on that rope, so in case you drop it, it'll sit on the bottom and this rope will float up and you can get it. So, let's see. We said this one was metal, and this one was metal, and we said these 2 are not metal. So if it's metal, it gets a red T. If it's non-metal, it gets a black T. Okay? And then when you mark them correctly, you're going to get points. For every one you mark correctly, you get 5 points.
Hey, question.
Okay.
Can we use ferromagnetic for
Yes.
classifying the cannon?
Yes, you can do whatever you want.
Yes, that was easy.
Yeah, yep.
Perfect.
Okay, so I think we're getting near the end of the missions. So if you have questions, now's the time to write them in because we're probably only going to be a couple more minutes. But I have some just general stuff. After I get a drink of water. Okay, so the order of tasks. We kind of talked about this.
Question.
Okay.
Do we give them manually to the grabber when it comes to the surface?
Do we give what manually?
Not,
You mean, I think for these markers, yeah, you can deploy these any way you want. So you could, they will actually be here on the surface side of the pool when you get there. So you could put them on at the beginning, or you could put them on, you could do some other tasks and go, hey, now we're going to this. Put them on. So you could actually, where's my high-tech sensor? You could actually have them while you're doing it. So you could come down and go, non-metal gets black, metal gets red, non-metal gets black, metal gets red. So you could do it that way, or you could test them, come back up, get the markers, go back down.
Another question, can the monitor for the camera feed have a separate power supply from the ROV?
All cameras have to be powered off the main supply. So everything has to go through that one single fuse. So you have up to a 15 amp fuse for Navigator. The camera has to be powered off the supply, has to go through that fuse, but then if you want to branch it off after that, you can do so.
What about the monitor?
The monitor.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes, so you can plug a monitor into AC if you want.
They'll have AC at the mission station?
If your mission station has AC, or you can, for instance, if you're using a laptop, you could use the laptop battery. But yes, you can plug a monitor to be powered from something other than the main supply. Sorry.
Yep, no, that was it.
Yep.
Monitor. Yep.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay, so where were we? At the end. So again, the order of tasks. This year you can pretty much do things in any order you want. You can start with one task. You can go intermittent. You can do a couple things from task 2, skip to task 1, come over to task 3, go back to task 2, then back to 3, 1. So again, the only kind of things this year are you have to do an order of logical things, such as you gotta pick these up before you do, you gotta get the water sample back before you can do the tests. So we talked about dropping items into the pool to retrieve them at the bottom. So just some general rules. Mostly the same as last year, although there is one big exception. But again, you're gonna have to power up through Anderson power poles. So when you connect to power, you're gonna have to use the red-black Anderson power pole connectors to connect to power. You must have a fuse in your system, and that fuse has to be within 30 centimeters of those Anderson power poles. Your motors either need to be completely shrouded or all the way inside the frame. And so what that means is, if your propeller's turning and you bump up against a wall, it should be the side of your ROV, not a propeller that bumps up against a wall. So that's something when you go through safety check, the judges are gonna look at and make sure your propellers are either inside, completely inside the frame, or shrouded. Now, the new rule this year is we've actually brought fluid power down to the Navigator class. So in Navigator class, you're now not just limited to a manual pump. You can use essentially fluid power. Now, don't just think, oh great, we can use whatever we want, and follow those rules. And you also, in order to use fluid power such as that, you have to take and pass the fluid power test. Okay, so this is something just this year, we brought it down to Navigator, give you a little bit more of a challenge, let you go a little more higher tech with this. But again, read those safety rules and make sure you comply with all those safety rules.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
All right, so can we use converters over the surface to power control box electronics, things that requires a 12-volt DC?
Say that again? Sorry, my brain.
Yeah, I know. Can we use converters over the surface to power control box electronics, things that require a 12-volt DC?
Yes, so if you have your controller is separate and needs 12-volt DC, you could run a converter to run all that. Now, everything that goes, I'm looking at Jill now. It's been a long day. This is my second Facebook Live day. So everything that goes down the tether, everything that's going down to the ROV needs to go through, you have to get, and this includes cameras and motors, things like that, you have to get from the 12-volt power supply that MATE provides. For things on the surface like monitors, computers, yeah, you could run those off a converter, but the only thing from there that should be going down the tether are what we call command and control signals. For instance, your joystick or your maybe a keypad on a computer signals going down there, but you can't run, that power shouldn't be running propellers or anything like that, only command and control signals.
Got it.
Okay, hopefully that made sense.
Yeah, and here's another one about communication between microcontrollers. So I'm not sure if
You can use microcontrollers. I mean, we don't really.
So could one from the surface talk to one on the bottom?
I believe so. Again, I'm not quite sure what you're asking, but yeah, you can. Yeah, the design, how you design is pretty much up to you. It's just essentially any power for thrust, motor thrust, cameras, grippers on the ROV, electrical grippers at least, that all needs to come from the MATE 12-volt supply.
Yeah, and Omar, if we didn't answer that to your liking, he could always post it to the FAQ board, right? So I know you're going to mention it.
Because that's about it. So again, you've got like 30 seconds if you want to ask more questions. But if you do have further questions about mission props, ROV design, post them to the MATE competition forum. I will answer them there. It may not be the same day you ask it. It may not even be the next day or the next day. But I will try and get to those when I have the time and as often as possible. I'll get those answered. And when you ask it, it may be that, hey, I may need to go out to our engineering team to decide the question. But if that happens, if you post a question that isn't obvious to me to answer, we've got the great team that will get an answer back to you after consulting with that team.
Yeah.
Okay, so unless there are other questions, I think that's it
Yeah.
for me for this Facebook
I'm
Live for
looking.
2019.
I don't see any more questions. And again, as Matt said, if you have any more or we didn't completely answer some of these questions, just post it to the FAQ board and we'll get to them. But all right, so Navigator, it's a wrap. It's gonna live on our competition Facebook page. It's gonna be posted on our YouTube and Vimeo channels, and I'll get links to those up as soon as possible. But we have, for those of you who might be involved with Ranger or Explorer class teams, on Thursday, so 2 days from today, we're going to do a Ranger class prop demonstration and Q&A. Again, right here, probably with Dylan filming some of them, at 1 p.m. Pacific time. And that will be followed at 3:30 p.m. Pacific time with an Explorer class prop demonstration and Q&A. So just a reminder about that. And I mentioned Dylan from the CMate store. If you have ever ordered anything from us, any kits or accessories, it's likely that Dylan had a hand on it somewhere along the line, packaged it up and got it shipped out to you, which is a good reminder that if you need anything from our store, anything to help you prepare for competition, get those orders in. We want to make sure to get them out the door to you with plenty of time to prepare for the competition. So all that said, I'm going to look. Yes, thank you. Hi, Patrick Rowe. I think we're good. It's a wrap. We'll see you on Thursday if you're coming back to join us for Ranger and Explorer. Have a great afternoon, evening, morning, whatever time zone you're in. Signing off.